All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to unpack a super old story, but trust me, it holds this incredibly sharp mirror up to our lives right now. It's a simple little fable, but it's got a lesson about our ego that, well, it might sting a little.
And really, it all boils down to this one question, doesn't it? What's the actual difference between just making a lot of noise and actually making an impact? Turns out, this little story from Aesop has a whole lot to say about that.
Okay, first up, the fable itself. You've probably heard of Aesop's fables, right? These classic stories that use animals to teach us some pretty fundamental truths about ourselves.
So, picture this. You've got this huge, massive bull just kind of chilling in a field. And then there's this tiny little gnat just buzzing around like it owns the place, full of, well, itself. And this gnat decides to land right on the horn of this enormous bull.
So after it's had a little rest, the gnat gets ready to take off. But wait, it can't just leave. Oh no, in its tiny little gnat brain, its visit was such a big deal, it feels like it has to make a formal announcement. So it puffs out its little chest and says to the bull, "I'm sure you must be so relieved that I'm leaving now." I mean, can you just feel the arrogance? The total assumption that its presence was this heavy burden the bull was just dying to be rid of. And the bull's response? It's just perfect. So simple, so brutal. He basically says, "Dude, it makes no difference to me. I didn't even know you were here." Ouch. And just like that, the gnat's whole universe of self-importance just pops. Gone.
All right, so let's unpack that. The story is like 2 lines long, but the lesson in there is absolutely massive. This is way more than a story about an insect in a bowl, right? It's all about ego and our sense of reality.
What we have here are 2 perfect symbols. The gnat, that's our ego, right? It's that voice inside that's convinced we're the center of the universe. And the bull? Well, the bull is just reality. It's huge, it's powerful, and honestly, it usually doesn't care one bit about our little personal dramas.
And this is what you could call the gnat's delusion. It's that little voice that tells us that everything we do, every little worry we have, is being noticed on this grand cosmic scale. The bull is the reality check that says, hey, not so much.
And that brings up a really tough question we have to ask ourselves, right? How often are we the gnat? How often is that big, important story we're telling ourselves in our heads just a monologue that no one else can even hear? Okay, let's bring this into the here and now, because this Gnat syndrome, as we can call it, isn't some old-timey thing. It is everywhere. It shows up at work, with our friends, and yeah, definitely, inside our own heads. You see this pattern pop up all the time. At work, maybe it's that person who needs a round of applause for doing one small part of a huge team project. Or in your social life, expecting everyone to stop what they're doing because you have a minor problem. Once you start looking for it, you'll see the Gnat everywhere. And here are the classic signs, the telltale pitfalls. You've got overanalyzing tiny little things, like, why didn't they like my post? You've got confusing making noise with making a difference. There's needing a pat on the back for just showing up and doing routine stuff. And the big one, feeling genuinely offended when you're not the center of attention. Come on, we've all felt that at some point, right? Okay, so if we've all got a little bit of knot in us, what's the fix? The answer isn't about destroying your ego. It's about finding your true scale. It's all about shifting your perspective in a really big way. So, how do we actually do that? How do we get off the horn and start seeing the whole field for what it is? Well, the fable actually points us in the right direction. Here's a thought. Maybe true significance isn't about what you say you're doing. It's not about the announcement or the big show. Maybe it's just in the doing, the quiet, focused, effective work itself. And let's take that a step further. Maybe the loudest buzzing we hear is just a cover, a way to distract from the fact that not much is actually getting done. Think about it. Now, this next one sounds kind of harsh, but stick with me. Maybe the greatest freedom you'll ever find is realizing just how little the world actually cares about your minor dramas. I know, sounds bad, but it's not. It's liberating. It means you can mess up, you can try things, you can just be, without feeling like you're under a microscope. And one last thing on this. Maybe the opposite of being self-absorbed isn't hating yourself. It's just thinking about yourself a little less. This isn't about self-neglect, it's about having a real grounded self-awareness. It's about knowing your actual size in the grand scheme of things and working from that honest place. So this is all great in theory, but let's make it real. Let's build a practical toolkit you can use, like today, to keep that inner Gnat quiet and tap into some of that calm, grounded bull energy.
Let's start with a few mental check-ins. First, just acknowledge you are not the main character in everyone else's movie. They have their own. Second, put your energy where it matters on the things that actually move the needle, the things that actually move the bowl. And third, try to find joy in the process and the quality of your work, not just in waiting for someone to praise.
And here are some mantras you can literally say to yourself. I act with quiet, purposeful intention. I release the need for constant validation. I measure my impact by results, not just effort. And my favorite, I focus on what's substantial and ignore what's trivial.
When you boil it all down, it comes to this simple but really powerful choice. Are you trying to be noticeable, or are you trying to be impactful? Because they are not the same thing. The gnat, it got noticed for a second, but its impact was zero. The bull, on the other hand, wasn't trying to be noticed at all, and its very presence shaped the entire landscape.
So I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. Think about your own habits, your own buzzing. What's one gnat-like habit you could just let go of this week? Just one. What would it be?